everyone, welcome back. My name is Whitney Fung and I work for the University of Florida IFAS Extension Service and the Board of County Commissioners Indigent Healthcare Division. We're back on Nutritionally Speaking and talking about some tips for eating healthy. We're on tip number 9, comparing sodium in our foods. And so first things first, we always go back to My Plate. So don't forget, I'm asking you from the last episode to this episode, have you been eating My Plate friendly? Have you been out to the website, choosemyplate.gov? If you haven't, then there's your homework. So definitely check that out. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about sodium in our foods. And so sodium, it's kind of a bad thing sometimes. We need it for our bodies, but the thing is that Americans consume too much. And a high sodium diet can contribute to high blood pressure. High blood pressure can increase your risk for stroke. A lot of times, high blood pressure is also known as the silent killer. There's no symptoms, and we don't know if we have high blood pressure. So it's really important that you know your numbers, you go to the doctor, you know your cholesterol, your blood pressure, as well as your blood sugar. So know your numbers, go to the doctor on a regular basis, and see if everything's in check. But a lot of these things are diet related, and that's why we're here, right? We're talking about eating healthy, and today we're here to talk about sodium in our foods. And so you have to compare the sodium levels in the different types of foods because it's really up to the manufacturer to determine what they put in our foods. I want to ask you, how many of you read nutrition facts labels? So when you go to the store, you're buying your foods, do you turn it around, that food, and you look at the nutrition facts before you buy it? That's an important question because that's the way you know what you're consuming. So very, very important is to check your nutrition facts labels. So what I do here, I have 4 cans, but I'll go to the store and you turn those cans around and you just compare the sodium on those levels, on those labels. And so sodium is basically table salt, but sodium chloride. And so when you're looking at these cans, you have here some that are no salt added, some that are reduced sodium, and some that doesn't have anything on the can. That means that it's there may be salt in there as well. So you really have to look at the label and compare each of those. The best, of course, is no salt added. You'll see sometimes it says naturally not a sodium-free food. That's because that food already has it, but you know that there was no salt added to that product. So there's a few choices that you can have. It's the no salt added, reduced sodium, and the plain. And so if you end up buying the plain one that has salt in it, it's okay, you can drain it, you can rinse it, and that does decrease the amount of sodium you consume. And when you buy the plain ones, doesn't mean you can't add salt to it, just means that you can control it a little bit better, or try to limit it as much as you can because maybe it's already too salty for your liking. So that's a good way to cut back on some salt is by looking at those labels or just simply choosing the sodium-free or no salt added or the reduced sodium option. So canned, fresh, frozen are all fine. The frozen foods as well, you definitely want to look at those labels because a lot of times they're packed with salt. And so a lot of you might think that salt comes from the salt shaker. And so, you might like to add salt before you even taste it at the restaurant, right? Well, it's not actually from the salt shaker. More than 70% of our salt for the average American diet comes from processed foods. So all these canned foods, things like that, those processed foods, boxed foods, frozen foods, those are all the majority of the sodium consumption that we consume. So you definitely have to look at whatever menu they have, even at the restaurant. Ask them for the nutrition facts before you order that item because it really can make a difference. The American Heart Association does recommend that every average American consumes about 2,300 milligrams per day. And so again, it's 2,300 milligrams per day. Definitely consult with your doctor if there's a different amount or you might want to be on a different sodium restricted diet. It might be lower, but talk to your doctor. Sometimes it can be 1,500 milligrams, but follow that generally 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. So that's your budget. You can play with it. You can have some salt, just don't consume too much, because then you may be at risk for high blood pressure. So definitely watch those. Look at your labels, watch your salt. And then here I have a little bit of the condiments, right? We use salt to season our foods, and so even soy sauce. I'm Chinese, so I like to use soy sauce, but definitely choose the reduced sodium soy sauce because that just cuts back on a little bit more. And then I have a garlic powder here. And so any type of spices, natural spices, are great to use. Herbs, if you grow them, they're very, just it adds a kick to your foods and it seasons your food in a healthy way. You don't have to add the salt. You can season it with all different types of spices and herbs. And so this one I pulled specifically because you don't want to be getting the garlic salt. You want to get the garlic powder. You want to get the onion powder, not the onion with salt. And then you can also check on the ingredient list to see if there's any other salts added to those seasonings as well. So salt, we all are going to consume it every day. You have a budget. You have that limit. You can look at American Heart Association recommendations, talk to your doctor, but that's one way that you can control the amount of sodium you consume every day is by looking at your nutrition facts labels. So I definitely encourage you to do that for all your foods. That's really all we have today. Thanks for being with us, and I hope to see you next time.